Good afternoon, good evening, not. Welcome back to Puzzle Combat, my main game, I would argue. We are here today to have a quick look at the new heroes of the month. I wasn't looking at the new heroes of the month actually, but let's have a quick look whilst we're here. Mainly, this video is going to be about the event that is ongoing. Visor, 220 additional damage against targets with less than 50% health. Yeah, stealth and 28% dodge for 3 turns if the target is killed. Oh yeah, okay, sorry, right, yeah, so I misread that. That makes sense. Okay, yeah. Bit of Geordie LaForge, but a white Geordie LaForge from Star Trek. And a Trailblazer Zvuk. Ooh, it's funky Aztec kind of gun. Dodge and targeting. That's quite a nice. I would say that's quite a good-looking green weapon. I quite like the look of that. Though in fairness, I don't have any weapon of the month, so it would seem very unlikely were I to pick one up now. I do have 5 epic weapon tickets. Let's just see where we go with that. Maybe this will be the time. Berserk and rubbish. Leaf blade. Okay. Bam! Check off. Well, 2, 3, 1, 4. It's not looking promising, is it? Boom! Yeah, lots of 3-star guns. Probably didn't pick the right time there by the look of that. So there we are. That's that was my attempt at weapons. Some of it didn't go together well. The missions that we are looking at today are some of the middle missions in the Jungle Showdown Mercenary events. Now, the Mercenary events involve quite. They're a bit different to challenge events. In some ways, they're very similar, and in other ways, they're very different. Because instead of having 3 groups of 10, which is the standard challenge event thing, you have 1 group of 30. You can take the same heroes throughout, so you can take your most powerful heroes, which means that missions like mission number 1, it's like doing a challenge event level 1, but you can take all your 5 stars and everybody else. So it wasn't particularly challenging. It does get more challenging as you go along. I'm still at the point here where I'm looking at the middle levels. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I've done videos before on like the beginning and how to get really high scores in the beginning. The middle ones are a little bit harder to read and a little bit tricky. It's not helped with mercenary events as well, is that things like, if I'm looking at my score, then I think, well, 8 is very low compared to 9 and 10. And so is 11, and I'll be like, But then 9 and 10 had 3 bosses, which meant there was more points to be scored, so it sort of skews your score a little bit. I can see from my scores throughout that they are okay. If I was being particularly picky, there are several that I could go back and improve. But because you're trying to do 30 levels rather than 3 groups of 10, it's not like you can focus in on 10 and accept you're going to get an okay score on the others. You either so it's more of an endurance contest, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So by this point in the game now, I have. Beg pardon. So let's improve my speaking. I've swapped my team around a little bit now that I have got. Let's just quickly upgrade. Ooh, look at that. There we go. I have got my green team, so I've got 4 green heroes, my 2 strongest green heroes being Crockett and Adide, and then 2 others, Sarah for her critical hit boost, and Throttle as a healer. So between him and Crockett, I generally keep everyone alive and end up with full health. And by this stage in the game, I am using Blunderbuss to boost the power of my green tiles especially. Probably actually could afford to drop health kits. I don't really need them at the moment. I swap them for tranquilizer darts, but that's just because I am using Throttle and Crockett together. Originally, Throttle was awful. They turned him into a healer. He originally only did like a sort of useless dodge skill, which never really got him anywhere. But then they made him into something quite useful. So now he's actually a fairly decent hero to have. So I've got a reasonable range of heroes there. There are other green heroes out there, of course. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, etc., etc. Blunderbuss, I'm afraid to say, is at the moment the sort of the go-to for events insofar as the massive boost she gives to everyone else. As with all events, speed is kind of very important, as are combos. So, at a glance, this isn't a great screen, but I can see a little combo there. I don't think this will trigger it did trigger a combo. So I'm trying to get sort of rolling combos ticking along, because combos are really where you score you can score your points. It's also obviously quick to do combos. That said, time isn't always combo related, so it is a bit of a balance. Boom, there we go. I don't know if this is going to be an amazing score. It's still okay. You can't sort of necessarily go for like your first screen has to be perfect, or at least I guess you could if you were taking really high-end battle items to every level. But taking high-end battle items to every level at this stage is not, in my opinion, is going to be very costly, and it's going to leave you short of battle items in the very later missions when you really, really need them. That is my opinion. So this one I will get a higher score, because again, the last two have been 2 bosses. Now we are up to 3. I don't think this is going to be my final attempt here. It's not going to be a bad score. It's going to be sort of reasonable, but not amazing. Good enough that if I was just going for trying to complete it and get a reasonable score, I would probably accept this. But I think I can do better. So sometimes you just have to go with like a gut feeling of like, that was okay, but I've had better boards in the past. There was a green 5 in a row. It didn't really time in perfectly. If you get it absolutely right, what I find works really well is to get a green grenade towards the end of the second wave, or penultimate wave, as there's 4 or 5 waves, however many, but penultimate wave, and then that can really set you up for like a 1 move kill the boss, especially if you're fortunate enough to have blunderbuss, so you can go, right, that's it bosses, time to die, and all the bosses get wiped out in 1 very quick go. That's what I find anyway. Personally speaking, doesn't always come together, of course, like any of these things. Generally speaking, I would also always say I recommend you don't activate blunderbuss before other heroes use their special skills, or if there's only like 1 tile going to hit an enemy, because if that tile misses or the hero special skills miss, it can really actually slow you down. So blunderbuss is best when, it's particularly effective when there are tons of on-colour tiles like sitting on the screen, and you can just do 1 massive move and really mess your opponents up. Again, this isn't sort of an awful board, but it's not amazing. It's one of those things where I'm afraid I'm not quite organised enough to sort of to pause it and keep recording tons of videos until I get a decent board, and then finally sort of go, right, here's what a good board looks like. I'm afraid that this is very much just a hobby for me, so time is not necessarily available to do all the sort of little fuzzy little extras that I know some people do. Certainly video editing and such is not my forte, and I do apologise for that. I know some people kind of like the rough and ready kind of technique. Other people find it frustrating and just want to cut to the chase. I do try and, I know I waffle, but I do try and actually make sure that I'm making points as I go along. Not always perfectly, I do grant you on that. But people who subscribe and stick to the channel and whatever else, it is appreciated. Generally speaking, I would say at this sort of stage, you want to be looking about 30 seconds per wave. So you can see that 3 waves, 2 minutes, 5. I would say I should be going a little bit faster than that, and that's reflected in score. I didn't beat my one last time. So let's see. What I may do is just, although my video editing techniques aren't amazing, I might just sort of skip if I think the board is particularly bad. Sometimes you'll get to the point where you think, oh, actually, I'll get blunderbuss. As I say, if you've got blunderbuss or your boosters, you'll think, oh, I'll get them ready. Let's hope that will then allow me to basically skip a wave or get through a wave really, really quickly. Just again, tiles not falling all that well here. There are, again, okay boards, but not what you really need for that high score. Like I say, what I tend to find is the best thing is to have a really, really good board towards the end of the the last but one wave, the penultimate wave. So let's just quickly, there we go, that wiped out a load of them. Really, really, really quite good boards at that point, but potentially a little bit too early, which is always a bit of a tough one, really. So I'm kind of looking at the board thinking, okay, I've got quite a few blue, a few greens. Now, oh, that's really handy. That's going to come together quite nicely. So then I will finish these two off with grenades. I suspect I'm going to want this. I'm definitely going to want blunderbuss ready here. So blunderbuss is ready. Then I'll hit this. This will hopefully kill off two of them, or more or less kill off two of them. No, only killed one of them. I was optimistic perhaps there. Kind of still looking. Oh, this is one of those. It's going to be quite a nice. No, if that had been 3 in a row green, I think this would be. This might still be one to take to the bank, so to speak. That's good, that's good, that's good. Right, okay, I've got this. This should finish off washing. There we are. So 1 minute, you can see now I'm under my 30 seconds per wave target, and that should be reflected in the score. There were some good combos there. There we are, 98,837. For a mission, generally speaking, by this stage, you want to be, by what level am I on? Level 19. Your scores want to be, if it's a 2-boss mission, you're looking at about 70 to 80,000. If it's a 3-boss mission, in my opinion, looking 90 to 100,000. I'm sure that there are players out there who can do better. You know, that last level you just witnessed was not amazing. I'm not going to replay it. I'm going to take that score and go. But I do also know that I could potentially have scored more. But then I would need to use a lot more battle items or have a lot more good boards, and there is only a certain amount of time in the day. Now, some players, the ones who are really dedicated, will just literally, like, if every board isn't perfect, you can keep replaying. That's a very viable option. If you want to do that, you just hit flee every time it goes wrong. Some players, they can afford to just buy tons and tons and tons of world energy flasks, and it's like board not perfect, hit skip and replay, hit skip and replay. Other players can afford to buy lots of battle items, or only build battle items with all their iron and goods, and their heroes are all leveled up. So it is a tricky one. I mean, as I've sort of say over and over again, I mean, I am a free player. I do feel generally that I do pretty well. For a free player, but I was lucky to be here in the early days of the game, which has given me a chance to sort of develop a deep bench of heroes, and I've got a reasonably well developed base. I know I have odd buildings which are still needing upgrading, but generally the core buildings are all at level 20, and the ones that aren't at level 20, I might periodically upgrade one or another, but they're not essential, really. I've got everything I need in my base is upgraded, so now I am at the position that most of my iron and food goes into either upgrading heroes or upgrading or making battle items. And that's a really good place to be. It does, unfortunately, like I say, it does take a little while to get there, but it really does give you a lot more options in the game as you go along. I assume my alliance will have lost the war, although, nope, 7 minutes ago. Did I miss that? I may have hit that. Oh, here we are. Defeated, yeah, unfortunately. Oh, that's very close, actually. Well, for that's a good result, really, for us. War Machine Destroyers are, I believe, the second highest scoring alliance in the game. I may be wrong. Let's just quickly check. And to lose to them by like 500 points is not a bad result at all, really. So I think we can be proud of our performance there. War Machine Destroyers are second. Yeah, so I think we can be pretty pleased with ourselves there. Not a bad result at all. For we've been consistently top 10 in my alliance, and it's a great alliance to be in. We are very easygoing and generally get along quite well, which is a really lovely place to be. The number of alliances, of course, does change and go up and down all the time. But there we go. Anyway, so I hope there was something helpful in there. Like I say, it's kind of it is always a balancing act between how much you want to commit. As well with this game, there are an awful lot of events throughout. the course of the game. So like every weekend there is some kind of event, so you kind of do need to ration your battle items, and it's that striking a balance between, you know, what is going to get you the most the best returns to allow you to get stronger in the quickest way possible. And I think that's a difficult one to balance up. But that, as I say, that's where I'm looking at sort of the middle of the game, the middle of the event, is you want to be aiming for sort of less than 30 seconds per wave. And that's generally a good sign. Towards the end of the event, would say less than 45 to 1 minute per wave. But you get more waves, and then your score goes up accordingly because you've got more enemies to kill, so you do more damage, and so it is always that up and down kind of balancing act. And I hope that will make sense. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment and subscribe if you haven't already done so. There are lots, and my videos do tend to be full of lots of hints and tips and everything else. I do apologise to people that I haven't replied to yet on the messages. I know I'm a bit rubbish at it. Real life sometimes just prohibits me remembering to do it, and I'm afraid that's a feeble excuse, because like everybody else, it's just a question of how you fit things in. But I do appreciate people liking, sharing and commenting and subscribing, and I do try and get back to everyone, and I do try and if people request a specific video, I do try and make sure that I will make that video. It sometimes takes a week or two for me to find the time for in the evening when I'm with my children and etc., and real life isn't kicking my ass, and we go from there. But there we go. Anyway, so thank you for watching. It remains for me to say, may death come swiftly to your enemies. Take care of yourselves. Have a good bank holiday weekend. All the best. Goodbye. Au revoir. Arrivederci. Au revoir.